Part 1. I bought a PSVR2 at launch months ago. I was gonna do an unboxing video, I shot it, I wasn't sure I liked it, so that didn't quite happen. Sammy helped. Look at that dumb little face. God, I want to squeeze his little cheek. I had this whole video planned out and partially worked on. I didn't finish it for whatever reason, mostly work and sleep, I think. Also video games. I even had this whole bit about how there was no port of Beat Saber, so instead I had to play Weeb Saber. But now Beat Saber's out. That being said, I've spent a fair amount of time with the thing, I've played a bunch of games, and bought even more. And since it basically cost as much as the PS5 itself, I'm gonna talk about the thing. Let's f***ing do this! Okay, let me get this out of the way. VR, at the best of times, is pretty goddamn polarizing. Some people think that it's gimmicky vomit fuel, whereas others see it as genuinely innovative and game-changing vomit fuel. I happen to think that if properly implemented, it's a new and valid way to experience our games. I mean, I did an entire video on, horror-adjacent VR games for the original PSVR. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. It's pretty good. And the original PSVR was good, but I could never shake the feeling that it wasn't quite there yet. For example, it's hard to tell from this recorded footage, but there's an issue with the resolution that makes everything look pixelated. It gives the game sort of a looking through a screen door effect. If you've used it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And for most games that required two-handed 3D spatial controls, you also needed to use the PlayStation Move controllers, which means you had to own PlayStation Move controllers. I mean, it did work as a stopgap, but it was also quite a bit less than ideal. And tied into that, you also had to have a camera set up to track your controllers, and the headset, it was dumb, but necessary, but also dumb. Now, luckily, they designed the PS5 to be backwards compatible with it, so you could play all your PSVR games on your shiny new tower of power. But a proper next-gen VR headset was pretty much inevitable. Oh, and would you look at that? Okay, so
what's all the hubbub? Bub.
What makes this new one so frickin' special? Well, obviously it's running native PS5 games, so there's the potential for things to be really pretty.
Oh, the colors, children.
Now, they say it has a 4K HDR display, but technically each eye has a 2000 by 2040 OLED screen, but I'm not gonna ding them on that. It'd be nitpicky as fuck. Toss away your neon lollipops, children, because the other most obvious improvement is the inclusion of true immersive 3D controllers. People have said that they're a little on the small side, but I have pretty big hands and they really haven't given me any trouble. They feel good to hold. You might feel that they're a little on the light side, but when the games require you to move your arms as much as these do, it's not really a bad thing. In-game, they're pretty freaking great. There's little to no movement stutter, there's finger sensing, and they have the haptic features of the PS5 DualSense controllers. And the inclusion of actual sticks means that traversal in-game is far better than anything we saw with the original PSVR and those Move controllers. I'm really happy with these. There's no need to set up a camera because the actual headset is lousy with them. This allows you to move around your room and actually move in-game. Now, this may not be that feasible depending on the size of your room, and you're likely to lose track of where you actually are in the room, so be aware of that. Also, cat hazards. Now, one of my favorite new features is the ability for the headset to track your eyes. First, and let me get this out of the way, this allows for a technique called foveated rendering. This basically means that PSVR2 games can conserve processing power by only rendering what you're looking at the highest quality. So the part of the game that your eyes are not directly focused on will be rendered at a lower quality, and you'll never even know that it's doing it. It's legitimately seamless. But what's even cooler is controlling the games with your eyes. With your eyes! Some of them only use this for like menu selections, but if you play something like Rez, you can actually use your eyes to aim at enemies, and it works really, really well. Like last time, it does come bundled with earbuds that fit directly into the device. But unlike last time, you can actually use your Pulse 3D audio headset. Sold separately, order today. And while wearing the whole thing, you will never look cooler. Setup is also a huge improvement this time around. With the PSVR, you had 2 cables, a separate box, you had to plug a thing into a thing, and that thing into another thing, and things got plugged into things. It was a whole thing. But the PSVR2 has one single, very long USB-C cable. You just go boop, and you're done. Remember how I said that it was chock-a-block with cameras? Well, you use those to scan your room and set up your available play area, and you can go from in-game to real-world view at any time by pressing a single button. It's handy when you inevitably get lost in your own living room. I'm not even joking. I might not be able to find much footage of it right now, but this happened a lot. Okay, downsides. Well, at least for now, there's zero backwards compatibility with original PSVR games. Wait, are you telling me that I can't play Moose Life?
I've done drugs.
And do I really have to go without Dead or Alive Extreme 3's VR mode? Yes, I have a perfectly healthy view of women. Hey look, boobies! Found them. And of course, since it's been out on the market for less than a year, it has a much smaller library than the VR device that's been on the market for like 7 years. At the time of writing this, new games are being announced and released all the time. Hell, a lot of PSVR 1 games are getting upgraded ports, and many of them are free upgrades if you already own them. So all things considered, it really doesn't seem like that much of a downside. So where's my goddamn move? And there's always the fear that Sony might pull a Vita and stop supporting it, you know, and I really hope that doesn't happen. I like the thing a lot. Is that a spoiler? Can you even have spoilers in hardware reviews? Oh, and of course, there's the price.
It hurts bad!
But before we go any further, this video is brought to you by Nah, I'm just fucking with you. Patreon.com/MattTheLast. Part 2. The games. I mean, after all, what is an expensive piece of gaming hardware with no games to play on it? The 3DO. Oh god, I'm old. And as previously mentioned, it did take me for friggin' ever to put out a video on the damn thing. But one benefit of that is it gave them more time to make new games for it. It's all going according to plan, he said disingenuously. Okay, so what do I have for the PlayStation VR2? This time it's virtual. Well, first and foremost, we have Horizon Breath of the Call of the Mountain. This, as I'm sure many of you already know, is the big ultra AAA flagship title for the new device. You know, the requisite big old graphics extravaganza. And it absolutely looks the part. Going into this game as your first experience with the new hardware, it's immediately apparent what a huge step up this is from the previous generation. The world of Horizon is brought to life right in front of your face. It's kinda spectacular, and frankly, this footage doesn't really do it justice. Especially with the immersive sense of scale that they're able to create. It's a lot more of a linear experience, to put it lightly, but that's kinda to be expected given the nature of the thing. It does make it feel like a bit more of a tech demo than a full Horizon game, though. One thing they absolutely nailed was the archery, which is good because that's really your only method of attack in this one. Yep, there is no option for melee whatsoever. Now, you may consider that a bit of a downside, but honestly, after having played the thing, it probably would have been a bit awkward to implement. But all things considered, it's fun and it provides a solid first impression for the new hardware. Just don't look down. Next up, we have Kizuna-ai Touch the Beat. I bought this one because at launch, the rhythm game offerings were rather slim. You smack cubes with these batons and move your arms around to sugary J-pop tracks of varying styles. And despite not knowing any of these songs, it's pretty fun. And I'd imagine that if you're a fan of the music on offer, you might enjoy yourself even more. I do like how every song has variable difficulty, so you can go from, say, a cakewalk to maddeningly absurd. Although I can't really shake the feeling that I'm gonna be put on some kind of list for owning this one. Can we go back to the, That's better. Wait, what? No! God damn it, Japan! And if you want a real open world, or I guess open universe game to play on your fancy new facehugger, No Man's Sky had a free update. And god damn! Now, I've played a fair amount of No Man's Sky on the original PSVR, and it was good. It was fine. It was good. I might even go as far as to say that it was neato. Strong words, I know. But with this, I might find it hard to go back to playing it on a TV screen. It looks crisp and beautiful, and the 3D controls, at least for me, added to the immersion without feeling like tacked on gimmicks. VR makes absolute sense here, and I'm glad that seemingly it wasn't just an afterthought. Now, for the more arcade-oriented of us, there's Masternoid. It's basically a 3D retro-style Breakout clone with a good number of stages. It's a simple concept that's just well executed. It looks really nice, and the music which you're listening to right now is absolutely on point. The lack of a stage creation tool seems like a bit of a missed opportunity, but otherwise, I'm really enjoying this one. Now, I'm obviously not going to be able to show you everything that I own and have played in this one video, but let me tell you, there's already a lot you can do with PSVR2, the squeakquel. You can do a city, you can do a Star Wars, you can feed a penguin, and you can even—
Are you winning, son?
Maybe don't do that one. Okay, so $1 million, like $600 question. Is it worth the money that they're asking? Well, it sure as hell ain't cheap, but after taking way too much time to make this video, I'm so sorry. I don't regret my purchase. There's so much more coming out for the device, and honestly, there are games out that I just can't afford yet. So if Sony and their affiliates continue to support it,
Where's my new Astrobot game?
PlayStation VR2 could really become something special. Now, if you'll excuse me, this is a great excuse to replay Resident Evil 8. Oh man, why am I so bad at this?